Welcome back. In the last session, we created this color wheel. We mixed all of our primary, secondary, and intermediate colors and put them in the right wedge of the color wheel as the name of the color indicated. In this lesson, we're going to glaze the colors over the top of these colors that are already there. This glazing technique is used in watercolor. It's also used in oil painting and acrylic painting. It's whenever you put a thin layer of color over an already or pre-existing area of color. If you look at this, this is one of my examples from doing the preliminary ideas of how this would work out, and you can see how the color changes as it moves around the color wheel. It might have an overlying yellow theme to it, but then it changes that yellowness of each of the colors by what's underneath it. So to do this, we're going to look at this color wheel, and here now on the second one we left this area blank right in here. Alright, this area that's blank has different colors written in the circle. So for example, this one it's really hard to see because it's painted over, but the word violet is here. You can take this area and paint violet over the whole thing. This one is going to have blue over the whole thing. This one, green over the whole thing. This one, yellow over the whole thing. And as you pull your brush around the wheel, you want to make sure that you're not scrubbing back and forth too much, because that'll kind of upset the color underneath. If you were doing oil paints or acrylic paints where the paint has dried and be bonded to the substrate, then the paint won't lift off and you can kind of scrub back and forth a little bit. But here it's just watercolor, and this isn't really the greatest watercolor paper, so it's going to lift off eventually. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start, I want to start on this violet, but in order to do that I've got to get the blue and the red out. So I'm going to create my violet right over here. I'm going to get some warm red and put it down. Sorry, my cool red, what am I saying? My cool red, put it down, and my warm blue, and put it down. And take those two and mix them together to get a violet. Now once I have an appropriate violet, I want to make sure that it's not too watery, so I'm just going to tap the heel of my brush here to get like the cleaner water out. Then I'm just going to carefully and relatively quickly swipe my brush over the top. I kind of went out of the line there. Alright, now it's going to change it just a little bit. It made this orange just a bit darker. It made this totally change the green. The violet kind of just became a deeper color of violet. Okay, now that I've got that one done, I'm going to go and I'm just going to grab some of my warm blue. And again, just touch the heel of my brush to get most of the water out. I'm going to do a line around here, trying to be careful not to go over the same place too much and disturb the color underneath. Now that I've got that warm blue, I didn't indicate on the circle the warm or the cool, but I'm just going to follow my normal progression. Okay, just like you did around the color wheel. Just going to follow that normal progression and go to some cool blue. If you feel like you're unable to put the warm and the cool in, just choose one of the colors, and that's, won't be perfect, but it'll give you a really good idea as to how the colors change. Like this cool blue is much stronger than the warm blue, and it has a much different feel. When it goes over the green, you can actually see the difference there. Alright, now to get my green happening, I'm going to need some cool yellow. And some of the cool blue. And green's tough. You're just going to have to, mix the best green you can and call it green. Please don't use the green in here because that's kind of not a very pure green. That's a little too much blue. There we go. Alright, so let's call that my green. Now I noticed as I was swiping my brush in here, the green changed just a little bit because I had some red on my brush from going over the red area. You can kind of see almost here that green turned almost brown, which is kind of unfortunate. I don't want my green to look brown in the area that's supposed to be green. So I'm just going to kind of mix it again and try to put some green right on top of there. There we go. So the color will lift up a bit, which you do have to be careful about as you go through. You don't want your colored areas to get too mixed up. Now I'm kind of running out of my clean water here, so I'm going to try to conserve. Try to really clean your brush well as you're working so that you have a nice clean brush. Here's my yellow. Start with my cool yellow first, since that's what I made my green out of. And you can see how the yellow is lifting out, or rather the other colors are lifting into the yellow, because yellow is the weakest color. That's why you never put yellow on top when you're watercoloring. You always put the yellow down first and then put the more powerful colors on top. Otherwise you end up lifting up and the yellow ends up looking kind of dirty on the top. So I get some warm yellow. And you'll notice right here on the violet, the yellows really look different on top of the violet. The cool and the warm really have a different look. Okay, now you have to clean my palette out over here because my mixing area is all dirtied up. Okay, going back to mix my orange, some warm yellow, and some warm red. Paint my orange. See, the orange barely changes the reds and the orange spectrum there. Alright, my last go here is the warm red and the cool red. These are my pure colors. Warm red first, and my cool red. Okay, now this would be my hope for you, that by the end of this session you'd be able to see all of these differences, and you'd really be able to see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet in the center here, kind of indicating the rings around, and then also be able to see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet all the way around here, so that this outside ring is pure color, and this wedge right here that says blank on it would be pure color, and then all the rest are going to be combinations of two paints glazed over the top of each other. When you're done, make sure that your artwork is in your drying rack. Make sure that your brush is as clean as possible, and take a little bit of your water and wipe out your palette mixing areas so that they're clean and dry for the next person. Okay, and that's how it should look for your glazing watercolor color wheel.